Hi, so I was thinking that I haven't made a ASMR video in a while, and I've been working on a few things, and I thought, why not do the proofing of a up and coming book that I'm going to be writing with you guys. And I've got my web here, and I'm just going to go over all the different chapters and the basis to the entire book. So it'll help you with your tingles, and it'll help me to kind of finalize some of my ideas and uh, just start getting this dream into being manifested. Okay, so the idea of the book is something along the lines of going throughout my life and going over the different issues and turmoil and abandonment and things of that nature that have occurred in my life that kind of formed me into being the person I am today, which I kind of like a lot. Um, so the first chapter is going to just be called The Beginning. The beginning starts with my biological mother. I don't quite know my biological father. There are a few small stories in there. It's and then I'm gonna talk about her life a little. So I'll tell you guys. So my biological mother, she was a really smart girl. She was a twin. Her twin sister died when she was sick. 6 years old. My mother had sickle cell, and I'm not sure of the full details of her sister dying, but she was a twin. And my mother was a very unique looking child. She had blonde, dirty blonde hair and light colored eyes, but she was brown, more brown than me. And she was one of four. And she graduated from high school when she was 16, and she was kind of a rogue child. She always wanted to like be a model and things like that. And she kind of like left home because of just things happening in her house that weren't okay. And when she left, she had my brother when she was 22. She had me when she was 23. She had my next brother when she was 24, and the following one when she was 25. We are all around 13 to 15 months apart. So we're literally like stepping stones. The story of my birth. My mom has told me multiple stories of my birth because my mom also, I was not raised by her only until I was 2 years old. She had a drug addiction, and which she didn't have the drug addiction until I was about 5, but I stopped living with her when I was 2 because she just didn't have her life together, to be honest with you, and she's got anger issues and things like that, which is just funny because I don't have those kind of issues at all. But the story of my birth always kind of goes something like, she says, I was cramping, but I thought I just had to go to the bathroom. And so I went to the bathroom and I started to push, and your head came out. I'm so sorry. This is really real. And that my grandmother was there and she called the ambulance and basically pushed me out while getting into the ambulance, and that it was snowing. It was so much snow. And what's funny about the snow is that every time it snows near my birthday, because my birthday's in December, I feel like it's a gift from God. It's like I literally feel like, oh my God, God knows that I'm the most special person in the entire world. It's very narcissistic of me. But I find it very sweet that maybe that's the reason why I feel that way about snow. Um, and the other part of this would be my mom's best friend growing up, I thought was my dad. That's the really funny story because he always came around until I was probably like about 12 years old. I really thought he was my father. And what's funny is he's on my Facebook now. And that's kind of cool because you're going to learn a little bit more about my story, but it's kind of cool. So when I was 2 years old, I went to live with my second set of parents. Um, I'll just tell you their names are Peggy and Doe. They were older couple. They had never had any of their own children. They had adopted two kids, and then they never adopted, but me and my three brothers, biological three brothers, came to live with them. And, they were my mom and dad because I was two. Like, that's my mom, that's my dad. And because my birth mother only raised me until I was about two, she really wasn't what I would have considered my mom. They were older. My dad was retired when I was in kindergarten, so he was already in his late 60s, and my mom and dad were about the same age. Um, they were awesome parents. Like, I had the most fun. I never knew what it was like to go to a babysitter or daycare or anything like that because they were home. They were always home. When I got off the school bus, they were the first parents there. It was a travesty if my mom wasn't there when other parents were there. Like, what do you mean my mom's not here first? Because they didn't work and so they were home. Um, Peggy, my mom, got sick when I was first or second grade, and she had kidney failure, and she started dialysis somewhere around third grade, I want to say, which kind of changed our lives a little bit. Not in a bad way, but it just changed. And to be honest with you, I have no real memory of this time in my life because maybe I blocked it out. I don't know. All right. So going on to the next chapter, that was all the beginning. The next chapter are the abandonments. Um, so the first abandonment for me would have been my biological father, who the story from my mom, because of her being a rolling stone, was that my biological father was married, and she was so in love with him. She was so in love, which makes sense because if she was pregnant with me and so in love, I am in love with love. I'm in love with love. Um, that basically he wanted a son. My mom had one son, and he had 16 kids. Of his 16 kids, he had one son, and all the rest were daughters. So the story goes that when he found out that my mom was having a daughter, he kind of just left. That was it for him. He wanted a son. She didn't produce that. He was taking care of her, and he just stopped everything, and basically left my mom to fend for herself, which is why I thought my mom's best friend was my dad. Um, so that's pretty much it with him. My biological father lived in the same neighborhood I lived in until I was like in sixth or seventh grade, and I saw him once. I never really longed for him because I had a great dad in my older parents that I mentioned, Peggy and Doe. My dad was the best dad ever. So that was the first abandonment. The second abandonment would have been my mom, which I already explained that story with her. And the story throughout my life with my biological mom is that she would sort of pop up for like a day, and then she would leave for a year. Then she would pop up again for like 2 weeks, come, go, and then she'd leave for 5 years. And then she'd pop up again, and then apparently she kidnapped me at one point. I don't remember any of this either. These are things that maybe I've blocked out, or I was too young to understand what was going on. Um, but so basically, she's popped in and out of my life periodically until later on, until about age 27. I'm 33 now. So that was that. And then the third abandonment was with my parents, Peggy and Doe, because I was put into foster care when I was 11. Um, they were just old and they were just sick and they were old. They were amazing parents. I love them so much, but they were just old and they like took on, six children. Plus my older sister had a child, and then they tried to adopt two more kids from the church, and then my cousin would be at the house with us, and then people would drop their kids off with my parents, and people would just really take advantage of how kind my parents were and how available they were. And I can see how some of their characteristics for just having a heart to want to care for others um, built something in me to want that same thing. The only difference I will say is that, and through time and through experiences, I've learned that there is a boundary with all things. And I've never wanted to be the type of person that says, put up boundaries. But you've got to always make sure you save you first, because the nature of human beings is one in which they will save themselves at the cost of you. And it's an unfortunate thing, or it's fortunate. I'm not really sure. We're all out here living life hoping we're getting it right. Um, the next abandonment was with my childhood, just friends, moving, a lot of moving, guys. I think I went to something like 11 elementary schools. Now, because of this, I'm really great at talking to people, and I don't really feel abandoned by friends and things like that. I have great friends now. But 11 elementary schools, there's only 6 grades, so in elementary school. So I moved a lot, and I don't really remember much of that either. I'm pretty sure my personality is one in which I just survive and I just keep moving. And I usually, have a way of understanding, loving what I got to do, and moving forward. It's just been part of what I've been able to do because of all the moving. And everybody kind of handles that a little bit different. So that's how I handled that. And oh, I wanted to talk to you guys about who I was when I was a child. That's right. That's part of the abandonment part. When I was a kid, you guys, I wanted to live in the jungle so bad. Like, I wanted to be naked. I didn't want to deal with money. I just wanted to literally like live in the jungle and be in a tribe, and like I had these crazy dreams, and like I was a little kid and I found a ring. It was like a little silver ring like this size, and I would carry it around and I would call it Buddha and I would pray to it. Like I would literally be like, Buddha, what are we doing today? Like Buddha was my best friend. And like one night I could have swore I saw like an alien in the sky, and I went to school and I drew a picture and another little kid drew the same picture, and I was like, oh my god, you saw that in the sky? And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about, girl. Like this is out of my imagination. I'm like, oh my god. So I was a very like I always looked at life like so big. Like it didn't overwhelm me to sit and ask questions like, does God have a God? Is is like my life affecting his life? Am I making decisions that affect God? I was just really, really intense. And I'm sort of still really intense like that, but it's definitely simmered down because when you're a child, everything is so open, and as you get older, because you're making yourself so open to so many things, you can overwhelm yourself. And I think that my teenage years and early 20s were for me to understand, like, you don't need to know everything. Everything is not important for you to know, girl. Like, sit back and relax. But no one told me to sit back and relax when I was a kid. They were like, girl, keep asking more questions. Maybe it was a form of entertainment for the people in my life. All right, chapter 3, guys. Chapter 3 is just called, well, I don't want to say her name, but someone very, very special. Someone very special came into my life when I was 8 years old. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the Big Brother, Big Sister program, but in my state where I live, there's a program where adults will volunteer to just be an adult in their life that was positive. And this particular person came into my world and created such a spark in me. And so I was 8 years old, and like once every other week or twice a month, she would come and get me, and we'd spend the day together, and we would do activities, and she would take me. And because of my environment where I came from, I didn't come from like a poor environment, but I came from an environment where my parents, my dad didn't finish his education, and my mom worked in a restaurant, and it was just lower suburban, I guess. I don't know, but not poor. But she came from a very different environment than me, and she had a boat, and we would go sailing, and she took me to take equestrian classes and horseback riding, and she would take me to the movies and take me shopping and took me to Disney World and let me introduce me to her family. And she was of a different race than I was, and that was kind of cool to see her world and be a part of her world. And she changed my life. Honestly, she was the first. I even have this word on my paper is stable person in my life. She's still in my life to this day, and I adore her. I mean, I think that if at any point in your life that you really want to be encouraged to start anew in who it is that you are, take the opportunity to get to know someone from a different background than you, whether that background be financially different background, racially different background, economical different background, just a very different background. It'll give you a sense of just understanding of yourself, and it'll allow you to appreciate other people so much. So that's the chapter on her. That's actually going to be a really long chapter because I love her. The next one is going to be about, actually, I don't really want to talk about the next chapter because that's a hard chapter for me to talk about, and I love sharing with you all, but that's a really tough one for me. So we're going to skip to the next chapter. All right. The next chapter is foster care. So I went into, I think legally I was considered a foster kid from the time I was 2. I would have never known that at the time because, like I said, my parents, Peggy and Dill, they were just my mom and my dad. And oddly, they were also my mom's friends. So I think my mom probably filed paperwork so that they could get assistance and help with us since it was 4 children that they were adding to their family. But ultimately, they were my mom's friends, my biological mother's friends. And so it all started with like court and stuff. And to this day, I hate court, whether it's a ticket or I've been through divorce. I hate court. I hate court because that was the first time I, as a child, took on, and I remember, took on the responsibility of caring for others while not caring for myself. While we were in court, they so said, all right, everyone's going to go in foster care. You're going to leave your family this day. And I remember everyone was crying. Everyone, my dad, my mom, my sisters, my brothers, everyone was crying, and I didn't cry. I didn't cry and shed one tear. And I was sitting around to everyone going, everything's going to be fine. Like, we're all going to be fine. I don't know what this foster care crap is, but it's like a baby vacation, everybody. Like, rose colored glasses went on that day, and they didn't come off for a really long time. And that's a hard one for me because I think we all survive. And in our surviving, we gain coping skills. And some people fight, some people run, some people put on rose colored glasses. And I put those bad boys on. And my optimism kicked in. And while optimism is a beautiful thing, beautiful, beautiful thing, my rose colored glasses have, in essence, at times allowed me to not even recognize what's happening directly in front of me. And that's something that I've had to work on through therapy and real just life and taking acknowledgement of the things that I do. Um, Having friendships with people where people kind of go, Jackie, look at what's happening here. Look at this situation. And me having to really break down and see people in a way that I may not want to. But, that's what life did for me. Also, with the foster care stuff, went to a group home, and I would have to say this was also an abandonment for me because I went into a group home by myself. Just know that I went from living in a house with my 3 biological brothers, my one brother who was not my biological, also my sister, plus her daughter, plus 2 little sisters, plus my mom and dad, plus my cousin, plus anyone who would drop their kids off. So on any given day in my house, there was a minimum of 10 to 11 people. And that was my normal 10 to 11 people every day in my house, if not more. Friends would come over, people would come over. That was the norm for me. And I go into a group home and it's just me by myself, with people I didn't know. And that group home experience was quite an interesting thing. And I'm so thankful for the person I told you about, this special person, because she took it upon herself to become a foster parent so that she could come get me on the weekends and I could go back to some sort of normalcy once in a while from my foster care experience and living in a group home. And I didn't have a bad experience in that group home. It's just, it wasn't my family. It wasn't my normal. I didn't know how to be And at least when I lived in my home, I knew who I was and how I fit in and what my job was and what the obligations were, what the expectations were, and all of a sudden everything just got flipped upside down. It's like me being an American who has no concept of a Asian, Chinese culture and being put into the middle of China, and you don't speak the language and you don't know the culture and you don't eat the food and you don't, and you're just stepping on everyone's toes. And that was hard, but I got through it. One of the things that I did was I actually pierced my own ear, this top hole, because my parents told me that when I turned 12, I was allowed to get my second hole pierced, and they wouldn't let me. And in the middle of my fury and crazy because of just what happens when you're emotionally just at zero, and you're a child, I took a needle of some sort, like a bobby pin or something, I don't know, and I pierced my ear, both of them, in the bathroom. Because to me, I was 12 and my mom said I could get my ears pierced, and how dare they not let me? That's just some of the things that happened. I had a friend though. I think her name was Natalie. Maybe if she sees me on here, she can say hi. Huh? YouTube's an amazing thing. She was awesome. I met her in the group home, and I remember she made me a mixtape, and on the mixtape was Mariah Carey's song with Old Dirty Bastard. Me and Mariah go back like babies and pacifiers. Oh, and she was my first friend once foster care started, and she made it bearable. But then she left, and everybody leaves the group home because it was a 60-day group home, and I was there for like 180 days. I wasn't supposed to be there that long, so I just kept seeing people come and go, and I'm like, when am I leaving? And then I moved in with my first foster mom, where that only lasted about a year, a little less than a year, because she broke some of the rules for being a foster parent, and I had to move again. And I cried, you guys, but honestly, I was so happy to leave. She had a boyfriend, and he was weird, and I liked her, but and she had a son, and I liked him. Oh, he looked like Usher. He was so cute. He was little though. He's like a little boy. He was like 2, and I was like 13. He was so cute, but he had like these big little ears. He was so cute. And but life went on, and I had tons of social workers. I'm supposed to mention that too. And one was awesome. In particular, she was amazing, and she's like this redheaded lady, and she was so much fun. And she was my foster care lady she was my social worker for the longest time, and she was great. And she really made the transitions from different homes a lot easier. And I will always love her. She was amazing. And then I met another lady, you guys. Like, the more and more I make videos, the more and more you guys are going to learn things about me, you know? And I'll just say her name. There was a lady, she was a social worker, and her name was Michelle. And she was the first person in life that I got to talk to about spirituality, just outside of religion, like what spirituality meant. And she made me not feel crazy, and she gave me books about things, you guys, just all kinds of amazing things. And I think she was like, I remember one day we went to a to like an old town kind of area, and they had like a Wiccan shop, and this all sounds crazy, but for me at the time, I think I was like 15 or 16 years old. It was so nice to have a alternative outlet from church or therapist or friends, or it kind of probably kept me from going into doing drugs and reckless behavior, sex and craziness, because that's what happens when you're in that age. You're 16, 17, and even if you don't come from such adversity as I come from, life at that age feels so dramatic. My God, I have a daughter, and I'm not looking forward to that age. and But having her there and having her show me these new worlds and these new ideas and these new concepts, those things became my outlet. Those things became my drug of choice. Learning and looking deep inside and understanding manifestations and understanding spirituality, understanding God and understanding your presence and purpose in life, that became my addiction. And she also was someone who forever changed me in such a beautiful way. And she was amazing. She later went to like own her own business and she moved away. And if Michelle, if you see me on here, say hi. The next part of this is meeting my mom and sister. So after group home, after the foster lady situation, I decided I visited a few different homes, you guys. I'm not even gonna go into that. You can get the book when it's all written. I met a lady, and she had a daughter and she had a son, and I would go to her house on the weekends and see if I liked it. It's kind of like if you knew you wanted a job and you could just go hang out at the job like 2 days a week for 3 months to decide if, if that's the job you want in foster care, at least in my county. By the time I got to the age I was, which is almost 13, 14, by then, it's a lot that happened in those 2 years. I was allowed to do that. I was allowed to go try different people's houses and just decide whether or not I wanted to stay in them. And my mom and my sister, I loved it. I would go over there and I had a sister. I had never had like that kind of sister. I had my sister that I grew up with, but I never had like someone close to my age. And she was my little sister, and we're close in age. We're like 3 years apart. And have my mom, and we lived in an apartment. And I ended up living with them, and basically to this day, that's my mom, and that's still my sister. And I kind of got to have a very normal life after that. Like, I went to eighth grade, and from eighth grade on, some of the friends I still have today are the same friends I've had since eighth grade. My best friend, had him since eighth grade. My next best friend, I met her in ninth grade, and we became really close friends in 10th grade. And one of my other very close friends, I met her also in eighth grade, and she's still around. And after that, I kind of lived a very normal life. Most of my friends did not know I was a foster child. It was just one of those things I didn't want to talk about because a lot of times when you talk about foster care, people assume that you've been raped. Not that people haven't. People assume that you've been beaten, you've been neglected in some sort of a terrible way. And I didn't want people to pre assume anything without getting to know me. And I just wasn't ready to share. I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to defend anything. I just wanted to be myself, and I wanted to enjoy meeting people and feeling stable again. And it was of little importance to me to tell anyone that. Me and my sister, we had a whole thing that we would say, because my sister was brown skinned and her mom, who's her biological mom, was light skinned. And so we would just be like, I have a different dad, or we tell some people we have the same dad, different mom. Like, we just, whatever. We went the flow with it. We didn't really go into it. It wasn't important to us. It wasn't important to my family. And so I just lived like that was my mom and that was my sister. And my mom was a single mom and she was raising us. And I had a great, very stable time. I met and I have to bring up my first real boyfriend. Now, you can have those little boyfriends. You got a crush. Oh my God, I've got a crush on you. I like you. I can't wait to see you in school. I had all of those. But my first real boyfriend, um, he became my boyfriend when I was 16. And, I hang out with his family, and he would come hang out with my family, and he went on trips with us. And he was like the love of my whole life. I adored him. I wasn't a really emotional person, but with him, I was like neurotic and crazy with him because probably because I never had like that sense of security. And then when I had that first feeling of like being in love, like really being in love, I don't know if it was addicting or if it kind of perpetuated a lot of my fears. When you find something that you love so much, sometimes the fear of losing it can kick in. And I think a lot of my teenage years with him were, it was love, but it was a lot of fear that it would go away, and that would make me neurotic, like any girl that was that age where you're like, don't go, stay, no, go away, no, come back. Why'd you come back? You should have left. You should have never come back. When you didn't come back, I couldn't believe you didn't come back. And it was, oh, but I loved him so much. But we broke up because he just wasn't. By 2 years, and he was just not doing what he needed to do, and I was occupying so much of my time in a boy. And I think one thing I would teach girls, like ultimately, even to my own children, I'll say this: like, wisdom only comes when you go through it. Like, you can watch me go through it all you want and hope you get the wisdom from it. 9 times out of 10, what you're going to get from watching me go through it is an experience in your mind and a memory of what you don't want to look like or want to be. But sometimes you just got to go through it. And, I'm glad I just went through it. But if I could give advice to help anyone that's in a relationship that's like feels like the best love you ever got, but also feels like the scariest love you're ever going to have also, and you're young, make a list. This is something my mom told me. Make a list. Make a list of all the things you'll stay with someone that you want, that you're looking for. And make a list of the things you will leave for, no matter what. Like, this behavior shows up, this type of thing shows up, that I can't do this because I know who I am. Make that list. And if any of those behaviors happen to show up, then be okay with declaring to the world who you are, what you do not deal with, and what your worth is, period. And make no excuses for it, make no excuses for it. And when I saw one of those things on my list pop up, I left. And it sucked, but it was what was necessary because 9 times out of 10, behaviors like that, they get worse. And luckily, it wasn't anything abusive. It was more him being abusive to himself. And that was something I couldn't deal with. All right, the next chapter is about okay. Oh, okay, never mind. All right. Sorry, guys. Let me do some tapping here. All right, so you know what? That's almost all of the book. Can you believe that? I have other parts of the book where I got married when I was 19 and had my first child and got divorced and got married again, and you know, but you guys can get the book for that part. What I kind of wanted to end this book on, or this sort of videoing of the book, is sort of the idea behind grief and the stages of grieving, and that at any time in life you need to give yourself permission to grieve and release something. Be okay with giving yourself that permission. There is no one in the world more important than you. Do you hear me? No one. And guess what else? No one else in the world is doing it better than you are. No one. No one knows the rules better than you. No one knows how to be themselves better than you know how to be yourself. No one in the world knows anything better than you. Okay? We are all on this planet hoping and praying and believing and guessing and contemplating and worrying and genuinely wanting what we believe is our best. And I'm not saying there aren't a few crazies out there in the world that will deem things different. And I'm not saying that these people don't exist. And I'm not saying that you might not run across some of these people ultimately, but you are your only concern. Okay? You are your only concern. And no matter what life throws at you, because you are your only concern, you decide. You decide who you are, what you stand for, how you will be, who you will be. And at any point that life showed you or told you you were something, if it doesn't suit you, you change it. You make it better. You be your own God. Do you understand? Not because not because someone else can't help you, and not because someone else won't help you, but because we push our own wagons up this hill called life. And it is us who has to be accountable. It doesn't matter what you come from, where you come from. I don't care what story you tell me about you. Where are you today? What do you want today? Where do you see your tomorrow taking you? And if your tomorrow looks like somewhere you can't get to today, be okay with readjusting that so that it is. I want you and me to be the most grandest, beautiful versions of ourselves for as long as we can, be as happy as we can, and not to have to cover up who we are simply because we think we're not going to be accepted, or we think that others won't be able to see us as the light and beautiful, amazing, wonderful, adorable, loving people that we were created to be. You are the best version of who you are right now. And if right now you don't feel like you are, create an alter ego who knows you are. And have fun. Have fun. Laugh at yourself once in a while. Laugh. It's okay. Who's gonna deem you right or wrong? Exactly. No one. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed hearing about me. I love sharing. I will be making more videos because this is really good, you guys. I have really remembered who I am. And part of me remembering who I am, I am hoping and I am sending the best vibrations to you to remember who you are and that we are beautiful, we are amazing, we are loving, we are lovable, we are the exuberant expression of love, and everything that we do is right. Love you guys.